I never thought I'd become the kind of woman who sits in her car at midnight, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles go pale, heart pounding like someone's knocking from the inside of her chest. But that night, that's exactly where I was. On a narrow street near downtown Charleston, South Carolina, right outside a bar where the warm, amber light bounced off spotless windows. And inside was my husband. With another woman. My name is Addison Moore, I'm 36. I used to think I had my life together. I worked for a small but reputable architecture firm, and my husband, Tyler, was a regional director for a medical device company. We met at a college reunion 10 years ago and got married after almost 2 years of dating. Marriage wasn't always smooth, but I thought we had the kind of stability most people hoped for. A warm home, a clear future, and a partner who understood respect. Or at least I used to believe that. The changes started small. Tyler began coming home late every Friday, saying he had strategy meetings with the sales team. He claimed the launch of a new product line had everyone stretched thin. I believed him. I even started making him late dinners and blending protein smoothies, thinking my husband was exhausted from work. But then I noticed the unfamiliar perfume clinging to his dress shirts. A strong, sultry scent no man would wear after just meeting with other men. I asked. He laughed, probably from the elevator at the office. Then shifted the conversation to whether I'd been sleeping well. I couldn't remember when the insomnia started. Everything unraveled the night my friend Sophia from book club texted me around 10 p.m. Addison, I'm at Rook and Vine. Are you free right now? I called her instantly. Her voice was shaky. I just saw Tyler. Here, with a girl, long brown hair, red silk dress. Addison, her hand is on his thigh and he's stroking her hair like they're the only two people in the world. I didn't speak. My ears buzzed. The words, "Are you sure it's him?" escaped my mouth, not because I doubted her, but because my brain was desperately searching for a way out. Sophia's reply chilled me to the bone. I wish I were wrong. But no. It's him. I don't remember driving there. But I remember standing on the sidewalk, looking through the window. I saw Tyler smile. The kind of smile I thought belonged only to me. She leaned in to whisper something in his ear. I watched them, realizing this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was rehearsed, repeated, accepted. By him. I didn't knock on the window. I didn't run inside. I drove home numb. My eyes were dry, no tears. I waited until morning to confront Tyler, in the kitchen while he poured coffee like nothing had changed. Do you have something to tell me? He turned, eyebrows raised. Last night. Rook and Vine. Red dress. Her hand on your thigh. His eyes widened, then narrowed. His lips curled into a faint smile like a child caught stealing cookies. Addison, you're imagining things. She's just a colleague. We were talking business. Business? With your hand? When there was nothing left to deny, his tone shifted. It's not serious. You and I. Do you even feel close to me anymore? I didn't move. My heart no longer raced. It just sat there, a stone in my chest. Her name was Lindsay, new to the marketing department, 24, a former college cheerleader. I'd met her once at a company party. She told me she liked my bob haircut. Maybe she was already calculating how to take my place back then. 3 weeks later, while I was reviewing blueprints for a community housing project, Tyler texted. Just 3 words. Can you come home? Somehow I knew it was coming. When I opened the door, he stood in the living room. No smugness in his face. No suit. Just a t-shirt and jeans, looking like he didn't even know where he belonged in this house. Anymore. I think we should talk, he began, eyes focused on the space behind me. I didn't sit down. I stood there, purse still on my shoulder. She's pregnant. Tyler blinked, lips pressed together. 1 beat. Then softly replied, 8 weeks. I didn't feel shock, just an empty space inside me like something had been removed from my body without me knowing. Yours? I asked, voice eerily calm. Yes, she's sure, he answered, barely audible. I let out a cold, humorless laugh, not because it was funny, because it was absurd. 7 years of marriage, erased by a baby who hadn't even formed fingers yet. He said nothing else. I turned and walked to our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, hand clutching the blanket I'd washed the day before. I inhaled slowly. Tyler left on Sunday morning. He said it was the right thing. That the baby deserved clarity, and Lindsay deserved to feel prioritized. It didn't stop him. And I didn't see him out. The first mediation session took place on a gray Monday morning. I arrived 10 minutes early, sitting in the waiting area with a latte in one hand and the divorce file on my lap. I had carefully prepared every legal document. Tyler arrived later, accompanied by his attorney and Lindsay. I wasn't surprised to see her. She was pregnant and clearly wanted to play the role of Tyler's partner in all things. But what caught my attention wasn't the way she kept her hand on her belly, as if the whole room needed to acknowledge the pregnancy. It was the man who came in with them. He stood behind them, tall, with neatly cut brown hair, wearing a stone-colored dress shirt and khaki pants, polished in appearance but not in the eyes. There was something in his eyes that made me pause. Sadness, like he was carrying a heavy secret. I recognized him when Tyler briefly introduced him to the mediator. "This is Jace, my college best friend. Jace Stanford." I remembered Tyler mentioning that name a few times, usually in stories about college parties and spontaneous weekend trips. I nodded politely, but my eyes stayed on Lindsay. She was clearly avoiding Jace's gaze. Every time he got near, she suddenly found a reason to step outside for a phone call, adjust her jacket, or fidget with her drink until he moved away. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe they pretended not to, but I couldn't unsee it. During the session, Tyler kept a neutral expression. Lindsay sat beside him, occasionally leaning in to whisper something, like she needed to steer the process from the sidelines. Jace sat across from me, silent, scribbling notes into a small black notebook. When the session took a short break for both parties to review terms, I stepped into the hallway. That's when I heard Lindsay's voice, coming from behind the vending machine alcove. "He doesn't know anything. Just a few more weeks and it'll all be over." Her voice was low but urgent. I froze. A male voice replied, quieter but unmistakable. "Lindsay, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Things are spiraling." I heard footsteps. I turned quickly, pretending to look for the elevator. Lindsay stepped out, still holding her phone, her eyes locked on mine. For a moment we stared at each other. I smiled faintly. "The tea here's pretty good, if you're looking for something warm." Lindsay said nothing. She lowered her gaze, then quietly walked off without another word. But I knew. Something was very wrong here. The second mediation session made things even clearer. Jace arrived alone this time, saying Tyler and Lindsay would be late due to a rescheduled ultrasound. But he didn't seem impatient. If anything, he looked like he was hoping someone would ask, "Are you okay?" And I was the one who did. We stood together by the window, overlooking the nearly empty parking lot. "I don't think I've thanked you," I said, "for being here. Not everyone has a friend willing to sit through 3 divorce sessions." Jace gave a strained smile, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, sometimes I ask myself why I'm even here." I tilted my head. "Did you know Lindsay long before she met Tyler?" He turned, hesitating. "Before him, yes." He spoke slowly. "She used to work in my company's marketing department before she moved to Tyler's. We saw each other for a while." His voice dropped. "Nothing casual, but not exactly serious either." I didn't say anything. I just waited, letting him continue if he wanted. He cut things off suddenly, no warning, no explanation, and then I heard she was with Tyler. "Did you ever tell him?" I asked. "I couldn't," he sighed. "They went public and Tyler—" He was happier than I'd seen him in years. How could I walk in and say, "That woman you love slept with me"? I told myself maybe she chose him because they made more sense together. I leaned back in my chair. But it didn't end there, did it? Jace looked at me, eyes rimmed red. She's started texting me again. Ever since she found out she was pregnant. He pulled his phone from his jacket pocket, unlocked the screen, and held it out to me. The first message from Lindsay. "I'm not sure I made the right choice. I need to talk to you." Then, "Have you ever thought, what if the baby is yours?" Another, "Tyler's too busy with planning, with the perfect dad image. I'm scared I don't know how to say it if the test doesn't come out the way he wants." I scrolled through the messages, a chill settling over me. There was a short video she'd sent him, only a few seconds long. Lindsay sat on a sofa, her hand resting on her belly. "I just had the ultrasound. The doctor says it's a boy, and..." I think he has your chin. Looks like you. It's kind of shocking. I handed the phone back. How long have you kept all of this? Almost a month, Jace said quietly, lowering his head. I thought I could stay silent, but she keeps messaging, and I can't let Tyler live in this illusion. I got up and walked to the window. Outside, wind rustled the maple tree by the porch, making the wind chimes my mother gave me jingle faintly. I don't like Tyler, I said slowly. I don't need him to suffer for me, but I can't just watch him be led around like a child. Jace nodded. I know. And I didn't come here asking you to fix it. I just couldn't keep this to myself anymore. Does Lindsay know you've kept all this evidence? No, I haven't replied. I just saved everything, just in case. I turned to him, meeting his eyes. If all of this is true, then Tyler is living a lie. And he's about to raise a child who might not be his. Jace let out a long breath. I think it's time. The truth needs to come out. I nodded. I agree, but it can't just be words. It needs evidence, and the right moment. He looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Then he understood. I wasn't there to drag anyone down. I just wanted to end what was still unresolved. What do you mean? I heard Tyler and Lindsay are throwing a small party next week, an official announcement about the baby and starting their parenting journey. I pressed my lips together. Maybe. That's the right place to end the illusion. Jace's gaze met mine, no more hesitation. And begin the truth, he said. Jace didn't call right away. I understood. For a man who'd kept silent for months to suddenly agree to show up at his best friend's celebration, just to reveal a truth that could shatter everything, that wasn't something anyone could do easily. But 2 days later he texted me a single line. If you go, I'll go. The party was held at Willow and Pine, an upscale restaurant by the Ashley River, a familiar venue for the city's middle-class ceremonies, engagements, birthdays, and those milestones marked with scented candles and French wine. This time it was Tyler and Lindsay's baby's celebration, a toast to a beginning, built on the end of mine. I needed to be ready. I started by reaching out to Kendra's Lindsay's half-sister who once worked with me at my old firm. We were never close, but I remembered the day she cried in the break room, saying her sister lived like the world was her personal stage. I invited Kendra out for coffee. I didn't beat her on the bush. Kendra, I'm not here to dig up dirt. But there's a man stuck between fatherhood and becoming a joke. And I think you know you can help. Kendra sat silently for a long time. Then she spoke, carefully choosing each word. Lindsay isn't evil, but she's used to controlling people's emotions. Always has been. I waited. In college, she got involved with a teaching assistant in the econ department. His wife was pregnant at the time. Then later, it was her manager at her first job. She always knew how to pick the ones with investment value. Was Jace part of that plan? I asked. At first, no, Kendra replied, her eyes distant. She once told me, Jace has heart, but Tyler has position. And then she chose Tyler. I set my coffee down. Do you have anything saved? Messages, pictures, voice notes, anything that shows Lindsay knew the baby might not be Tyler's. Kendra nodded slowly. She sent me a sonogram once, joked, thank God it looks like Jace. If it had Tyler's nose, I'd be screwed. She pulled out her phone. A moment later, I saw the sonogram photo. And yes, that exact caption. A private joke sent to her own sister, like it was some inside game. I asked her to forward me the messages. She agreed, but her voice carried a hint of sadness. Addison, I'm not proud of this. But if it helps stop this before it goes too far, maybe it's time to end the act. Saturday night I compiled all the evidence into a slim folder. The texts Lindsay sent to Jace. The sonogram with the caption. The video where she said, the baby boy has Jace's chin. Hotel records showing where she and Jace stayed, lining up with the conception window. Lindsay call logs. Lindsay had called Jace nearly every night. I made 2 copies. One for Jace. One to place on the table, among the flowers and wine, right in front of the man who used to be my husband. When I called Jace, his voice was steady and firm. I'm not showing up to retaliate, only to tell the truth. Same here, I replied. The night before the party, I barely slept. I paced my small living room, flipping the folder back and forth like opening it might reveal a clearer future. At 4 a.m. I stood by the window, staring toward the Ravenel Bridge. The dim lights stretched out like a reminder that every road eventually ends. I thought about Tyler, about the time he told me I was the only person who made him feel like he was enough. And I wondered, was he ready to face what he'd traded away? The divorce moved faster than I expected. I didn't even get a chance to cry. Tyler wanted to wrap things up cleanly and maturely, as if we were closing a deal, not a shared life. He hired his own attorney, a woman named Paula. Sharp-tongued, steel-rimmed glasses, always 15 minutes early to every meeting. I represented myself. Being an architect made me comfortable reading contracts, but being Tyler's wife had taught me how he thought. He wanted to save face, to be seen as a responsible father. I didn't fight for much. No house, no car, no wedding gifts from his parents. The only thing I asked for was my antique architecture book collection, which I'd spent 4 years building. The first volume was a birthday gift from my mom, who had passed from cancer. Tyler agreed, seemingly relieved I wasn't making things harder. But when he signed the papers, he avoided my eyes. Like he needed to convince himself this was for the best. A week after the court approved the divorce, I saw Lindsay tagged in a social media post. She was standing in front of a cake shaped like a sonogram, hand on her belly, Tyler beaming beside her. The caption read, "New beginnings, baby M coming this March." I closed the app. Not because I couldn't take it anymore, but because I no longer wanted to see someone trying to repaint himself with the colors of a good man. Some friends asked me why I didn't try to hold on. That there was still a chance with marriage counseling, that maybe once the baby was born, things would change. But there are cracks no therapy can mend. Some people can't be patched up with hope. I lived in my old apartment on Willow Street, about a 15-minute drive from downtown. Every morning I went to work, made coffee alone, and played jazz in the kitchen. No one touched the things I had arranged. No one left dishes out and said, "I'll clean it up later." And strangely, I could finally breathe. That evening the Charleston sky was heavy and gray, like it already knew what was coming. I arrived at Willow and Pine at 6:45 p.m., holding a thin envelope with all the evidence. The deep blue dress I wore wasn't meant to turn heads. It was to remind myself that I no longer stood in the shadows. Jace was waiting in the parking lot, dressed in a gray suit, his face so serious it was hard to imagine he'd ever been someone who smiled easily. He held an identical folder in his hand. We didn't say much, just exchanged a look, a silent agreement. We're not doing this for the past. We're doing it for the truth. The event host welcomed us with a bright smile. "Welcome. Are you on Tyler's guest list?" I smiled back. "Yes, Addison Moore, and this is Jace Stanford." She paused for a second. Recognition flickered, but she nodded and led us to the private event area in the back. A white, silver pastel-themed room, with balloons spelling, "Welcome, baby M." The room buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses and the scent of champagne. I saw Tyler in the center of a group of coworkers, smiling wide. Lindsay stood beside him in a fitted cream dress, her belly pronounced, her hand resting gently, as if to underscore some sacred calling, until Tyler's eyes met mine. The laughter carried on for a few seconds before a ripple of silence swept through the room. Tyler stepped toward me, eyes confused, still holding an untouched glass of wine. "Addison?" he asked softly, like even the sound of his voice startled him. "Hello, Tyler, congratulations." Lindsay slowly stepped forward beside him, the strain in her smile obvious. "I think this isn't the place for you." "I disagree," I replied, opening the envelope in my hand. "If this party is meant to celebrate a new beginning, then it should begin with the truth." Jace stepped forward and placed his copy of the documents on the nearest table. I opened mine, laying each piece out one by one. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. "These are the messages Lindsay sent to Jace. In them she expresses doubt about the baby's father." I turned the page. This is the sonogram photo with the caption, "Thank God it looks like Jace." Jace pulled out his phone and opened a video. Lindsay's voice filled the room, now frozen in absolute silence. "The baby boy has your chin. Ethan never notices anything, you know that." Tyler's face went pale. He tightened his grip on the wine glass, his eyes locked onto the phone like he couldn't trust his own ears. Lindsay grabbed his arm. I was recorded without consent. They're twisting things. I was just joking. I looked up at her, joking, while pregnant with an ex, during the exact time frame the baby was conceived? Lindsay bit her lip. There's no proof the baby isn't his. Jace spoke for the first time. There are hotel receipts. You and I stayed there the same weekend Tyler was at a conference in Houston. He said you were too tired to talk that night. You were with me. Tyler stepped back as if someone had punched him in the chest. I saw him shaking, not out of rage, but because his trust had been shredded beyond recognition. Lindsay, he said, voice hoarse. Is it true? You knew the baby might not be mine, and you kept me anyway? Lindsay gripped his hand. I didn't want to lose everything. I was scared. No, you weren't scared, I said, locking eyes with her. You used me. Guests began slipping out of the room, some silent, some clearly uncomfortable. The celebration collapsed in a storm of confetti and half-deflated balloons. Tyler looked at Jace, then at me. I thought I was starting over. Turns out, I was just reenacting an old play. Lindsay didn't move. The fight in her eyes had vanished. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, the click of her heels on tile sharp and final, like nails sealing a door shut. The room was quiet now, just the three of us. Me, Jace, and Tyler. Silver confetti littered the floor. A balloon that read, "It's a boy," had rolled under a table. The stack of evidence still sat untouched, next to Tyler's full glass of wine. He sat down, fingers clasped, face buried in his hands. His shoulders trembled. I started to walk away, leaving him with his thoughts. But Tyler looked up. His eyes were red. "Addison," he said softly, then paused as if searching for the right words. "I know I have no right, but I have to ask." I stood still, waiting. "Is there any chance," he asked, voice shaking, "that I could fix this, that we could start over?" Lindsay didn't move. The fight in her eyes had vanished, giving us space. Tyler kept looking at me, like a man lost at sea who'd just caught sight of land. I stepped closer and sat across from him. "What do you want to fix, Tyler? The years I was there and you didn't see me? Or the trust you gave to someone who was never for you?" He didn't answer. His face fell, like he had finally realized the full weight of what he'd lost. "When I signed those divorce papers," I said slowly, "I didn't do it to punish you. I did it because I understood. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired with an apology." Tyler buried his face in his hands. "I chose wrong. I know that now. I should have fought for you, for us, instead of letting go over an empty promise." I sat still for a moment, then gently said, "Tyler, I don't hate you. Truly, I just no longer feel the need to be chosen by you." He looked at me, eyes full of tears. "So, is there someone else?" I met his gaze steadily. "His name is Ryan." Flicker of shock crossed Tyler's face. I wasn't surprised. He had known Ryan, the man I once loved in college before I met Tyler. It had been short, but deep, and unresolved. "Ryan?" "Reeves?" Tyler asked, like he didn't trust what he was hearing. "Yes, we ran into each other at a conference earlier this year. He lives in Asheville, just moved back to Charleston a few months ago. He's the what if you once told me about." I stayed silent for a moment, then gave a faint smile. Not a what if because I lost him, but because I never gave myself the chance to understand what I felt. Now I do. Tyler leaned back in his chair, his face drained of color. "Are you happy?" "I'm at peace. And that's something I never fully felt when I was with you." That line cut deep. But I didn't say it to wound him. I said it so he would understand. Some losses come from the choices we make ourselves. Tyler stood up and walked to the window. He stared out at the soft golden lights shimmering by the river. "I always thought you'd be there," he said quietly. "No matter what. I was wrong, I got arrogant, and I lost the one thing that couldn't be replaced." I stood and walked closer. "Tyler, I hope you find your way back to yourself. Not so you can come back to me, but so you know who you are, when you're no longer trying to live through someone else's image of you." He turned to me, eyes blurred with tears. "I'm sorry, Addison, for everything. I gave a quiet breath. I accept your apology, but I can't go back. There was nothing left to explain. No more words needed. For the first time, the silence between us wasn't a void. It was closure. I left that room without any weight on my shoulders. The door closing behind me wasn't the end of a life. It was the close of a chapter that had ended long ago. 3 months after the party, I received a message from Jace. Lindsay gave birth. It's a boy, his name is Miles. The message came on a quiet Sunday afternoon, while Ryan and I were planting lavender in the small garden behind our house. My hands were still covered in dirt, but my heart stilled. Lindsay had moved in with her mother in Eugene, Oregon. Jace had moved there too. Not because they got back together, but because he wanted to do right by his child. I won't let a child grow up without knowing where he came from, Jace once told me over the phone. But I also won't let Lindsay define that relationship with more lies. I believed him. In his voice there was a clarity I had once wished Tyler could reach. In Tyler, after that night he pulled away from all our mutual circles. I heard from old acquaintances that he transferred to the company's office in Raleigh, North Carolina. A quieter place. No sympathetic looks. No awkward congratulations. We didn't keep in touch. No messages, no meetups. But one day in mid-April I received a postcard from Raleigh. Nothing but a handwritten line. I've started healing, thank you for letting me hit bottom. Without that moment I'd still be living a lie. I held the card for a long time. Not to dwell, but to remember. Sometimes, truth doesn't destroy people. It just forces them to finally see themselves. As for me, Ryan and I moved into a small home on the edge of Charleston, not too far from the city but far enough that on weekends, we could hear crickets instead of car horns. He has a daughter, Ellie, she's 8. The first time I met her she asked, "Do you know how to make crepes?" And when I said no she shrugged and replied, "That's okay, I can teach you." I love Ryan for many reasons. But what made me sure I wanted to build a life with him wasn't our shared past. It was the peace he brought me in the present. We're planning a small wedding next spring. Just family, a few close friends, and a backyard dinner under string lights and white baby's breath. I'm not dreaming of a fairy tale happily ever after. I just want a life where I can be honest, where there's nothing left to hide. People have asked me, "Addison, don't you feel like you got your revenge?" I always smile and say, this was never about revenge. The truth is, I didn't need anyone to hurt for me to heal. I just needed them to stop, so I could move forward. Looking back, I don't regret showing up at that party. I don't regret opening the envelope. I don't regret looking Tyler in the eye and saying the final word. Because if I hadn't done that, I might still be living in quiet resignation. Inside, a love painted over with beautiful lies. The hardest part isn't forgiving others, it's forgiving yourself. This isn't a story about falling apart. It's a story about a woman who was pushed out of her own life and chose to walk back in and rewrite everything from the beginning. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with truth, with integrity, with the courage to trust her own instincts, even if it meant walking a long, quiet road alone. Because in the end, it's only when we stop living by someone else's choices that we finally start living as ourselves. What do you think about Addison's decision? Was she right to face the truth instead of walking away in silence? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful family life stories.